Okay, everyone, let's get the recording over here. Okay, everyone, welcome back. Welcome. Thanks for coming to this year. Chanukah Sameach, everyone. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. Full house today. Full house today. We're going to pick up from where we left off, just to bring you into this. We're talking about something called the Nishmas Olam Hatohu, souls from the world of chaos. Okay? And just a quick recap of what we began last week, and it will get clearer, however clear this could be, will get clearer as we continue on today. Basically, we're talking about that there are two worlds, one world stenciled on top of another world. There is the Olam Hatohu, Aretz Tohu Vavohu, the world of chaos, right? The world of trauma, the world of dysfunction, the world of broken attachments. Then there is the Olam Hatikun, the world of fixing, the world of order, the world of Seder, the world where everything goes like Rabbi Nachman says, there are days that are Keseder and there are days that are shel Keseder, and sometimes the Seder is shel Keseder, right? Sometimes the order is not in order, that's the order, right? And so there's the Olam Hatohu, the Olam Hatikun, and these are two worlds that were put on top of each other. And our job is to be metakin the shiur, fix all brokenness, despondency, giving up, depression, whatever that might be. And there are souls that come from this world. It's not just worlds, but they are nishmas olam hatohu. Now, just to recap this, souls from the world of tohu, nishmas olam hatohu, they're not bad. In fact, as we were learning, tzaddikim's souls could come from the nishmas olam hatohu. These are the souls that knows no bounds. These are the souls that are not happy with the status quo. As we're going to see today, these are the most chutzpah souls, right? I got a call last night. Someone says, Shaya, can you help me? I said, what's going on? He says, my 17-year-old kid, he thinks he owns the school. They're going to throw him out of school. He's been suspended. Each time they suspend him for a day longer. And I tell him, you just have to follow the rules, he tells me. So I said, you know what generation we're living in, right? You know, we're living in a different world order now, right? That doesn't work. He goes, if he knows better, but he really thinks that he's older than me. He definitely thinks that he's smarter than me. He definitely thinks he's smarter than all his teachers. Teachers threw him out of the base medrash. They said, he called them Yavanim. He said, you guys are Yavanim. You're throwing me out of learning. That's what he says. You could see how well that must have went over. So I said to this individual, I said, first, I'll be happy to work with your son. Secondly, I just gave a shiur on Nishmas Olam Hatohu in our generation, you know, the people that want the most, demand the most idealistic people. And of course, it's Chanukah, we're going to weave Chanukah in and out of this, hopefully today. And that's really like the flame, right? The flame is just reaching higher and higher and higher and higher. But if it doesn't have the proper vessels, it totally burns. It burns, it destroys. Right? So the flame is like, I always think the flame is like it's consuming itself, right? So some of the Nishmas Hatohu, what they do is it consumes itself. It doesn't mind bringing down the world, and it doesn't mind bringing itself down with it. It will totally self-sabotage. It will completely self-sabotage. Welcome. Plenty of room. Chanukah Sameach. Thank you. Right? So the Nishmas Olam Hatohu, right? The flame, it's choser on itself. It keeps reaching higher, higher. It wants such big ideals that's not found in the world, and it keeps reaching and reaching and reaching till eventually it extinguishes, or it finds proper vessels in order to hold it that it could actually burn proper. Okay, we're going to jump in. We're on, for those of you who are coming for the first time. Well, you probably don't remember where we left off. We're in the second paragraph where it says Nishmas Tohu on that page. We're all the way down. First word on the line is harbe. Harbe yoser v'yoser hamida sho'efes v'noflos. Right? No, you had the right page. You got it? Okay? Right? First word on the line, harbe yoser v'yoser hamida sho'efes v'noflos. So we're right after that period. If everyone could see that. See, here. Is there enough photocopies? Maybe? Okay. Right? So again, we're talking about that they burn so much. Right? They burn so much, but they're burning and falling, like the ish. like the fire of Chanukah. The ner of Chanukah is burning and falling, burning and falling. The flame is going higher and higher, burning and falling. So we're going to pick up from after the period. Okay? So it says, and this is some well-known things that Rav Kook said. This is also brought down from the Mittler Rebbe. He was the second Rebbe of Lubavitch. This is brought down in Kisvei Ari. It's brought down from the Alter Rebbe also. It's brought down in a bunch of different places. They talk about this. And see, Rav Kook was pulling from all these sources. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Rav Kook came from a Chabad family from his mother's side, and he had the button of the Mittler Rebbe, of the kapata of the Mittler Rebbe, had the button sewed onto his yarmulke. The mother sewed the button of the kapata of the Mittler Rebbe on his yarmulke. So they said, so his head was always pointing upward. Can you imagine? First of all, it's an amazing story, but what a mother, right? Who would think put the button of the kapata of the Mittler Rebbe, Tzaddik Yisod Olam, the son of the Baal Tanya, on the kippah, right? Just sewed it in there, right? Put your head in the right place, right? Okay, so Ra'ot Shehina. So again, we're talking about the Nishmas Olam Hatohu that are burning more and more and more, and how they don't like the rules, they don't like the status quo. Ra'os shehinan klulot bechukim b'tanayim mugbalim she'enam notim le'israche le'en kate. They see that they are bound by different rules, b'tanayim mugbalim, finitude, she'enam notim le'israche le'en kate, that doesn't allow them to spread out and spread themselves. They find it constricting. Limroimim ein dai. To the heavens, not enough. V'hinan noflot b'tuga. And therefore they fall to worry, b'yeush, giving up, discouragement, b'charon, anger, umitoch ketzef, and from short-temperedness, b'resha, b'zadon, b'shiflus, b'chiur, with wickedness and intentional zadon, like amazed, intentional sinning, b'shiflus, and lowliness, b'chiur, and ugliness, b'tiyuv, with desire, b'hirus, with destruction, b'cho ra. So they want so much, and they feel so constricted by the problems of life. And what happens because they want so much? They fall to depression. They fall to anxiety. They fall to worry. They fall to trauma. They fall to addiction. They fall to sadness, right? And this is so important to keep in mind, right? That people want so much, right? The desire to do good in a person is so strong, and that's what leads them to do bad things, right? It's not because, like we mentioned this in the first year that we gave, it's not because we have too little light, it's because we have so much light of inside of us. And that light of inside of us, like Rabbi Nachman explains, the tzimtzum, that Hashem constricted his light and created the world, created a chalal panoi, but Hashem's light was just ein sof ad bli dai, knows no bounds. And the same thing with us. We all have that. Every person is a mini world in Olam Katan. So we have that infinite light of Hashem inside of us. And we don't know what to do with it. We want to do so much. We want everything right now, all at once, no process, no kalim, right? And what does that do? That causes us to burn out. That causes us to lead to discouragement. That causes all maladaptive behavior. Because all maladaptive behavior is really just an attempt to make us feel better. As I like to say, the function of dysfunction. What does that specific dysfunction provide for you? How does it help you, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't do it if it didn't help us. So all maladaptive behavior, all difficult things comes not because we have lack of light. It's because we have too much light. And then we start shaming ourselves. We start guilting ourselves. As Rav Kook is saying, we want so much out of the world, but then that causes us to down the pike. That causes us to spiral and not feel good about ourselves. That causes us to act in ways that we wouldn't want to. Okay, Hatzisa weiter. Hatzisa hachaya shelahem eno shokeket. Right, their inner agitation. Hatzisa means agitation. Hachaya shelahem eno shoketet. The inner agitation, the inner existential pain, the inner exhaustion, right? They feel it doesn't let them quiet. Like I was working again last night, and I was in session with someone, And he says to me, Shaya, I'm just completely numb. I'm numb. I've been numb for the last month. Checked out. Numb. Just completely disassociated, disconnected. Right? It's because he wants so much out of life. He wants so much. And the inner tzisa, the inner agitation, the existential angst, the pain, the longing, right? He's just numb. Can't do it. Right? Checked out, disassociated. I'm out of here. It's because I want to feel. It's because I want to feel so badly. I want to feel connected so badly. I want to feel the closeness of Hashem. I want to feel the closest of healthy attachments in my relationships with people. I want that so much. It doesn't happen. So the inner agitation begins, right? The inner shame, the inner guilt, the inner blame, the self-criticism, right? As I say, we're our worst enemies. You know, I said to my wife, I said to Effie the other day, I'm like, Effie, we would do better to celebrate ourselves and not put ourselves down. We really deserve to celebrate ourselves. I think that would be better other than shaming ourselves and guilting ourselves, right? Now he says something amazing. This whole thing is amazing. The inner agitation doesn't allow them to quiet. Midgalotain, and these are famous words over here. Midgalonhain be'aze panim shebedur. And who are these nishmas hatohu? These are the brazen people of the generation. These are the aze hapanim shebedur. So just to back out historically for a moment, who is Rav Kook referring to in this? Who's he responding? Because Rav Kook is always responding to people. He was responding to the early Zionists. The early Zionists who hated Torah, who hated God, who hated all that, you know, and he was responding and saying, these people that want the most amount of light, these are the early Zionists. It's pretty remarkable, right? It's like you think about Chanukah is about like being Megala the Tov, right? It's like where Rav Kook is always being Megala the Tov. He's always looking at the Pach Shemen. He's saying these Azei Panim Shebedur, the early Zionists who hate Torah, and we all know the stories, right? These are the highest souls of all time. And not only that, as we're going to see, it's necessary to have these souls. No accident to have these souls. These are actually good souls, right? It's like, okay, we'll talk about that later, right? Harishayim, these evil people, Baalei Prinsapim, men of principle, Haposhim Lahachis, who sin in order just to anger people. Haposhim Lahachis, I'm doing this just to make you angry, you know? And it's like, someone says to me the other day, they say, you know, how do I get my kids to stop hitting each other? So I'm like, well, they're only hitting each other to get back at you. You know, if you wouldn't get involved, they'd actually stop hitting each other. They're only, you know, Sarah, Levi, don't do that. Don't do that, right? They're only hitting each other to get poshim lahachis. I'm doing it dafka to get back at you, right? V'lo l'te'avon, and they're not doing it out of desire, out of just their own taivas, their baser instincts. Nishmatam gevoha me'od, their souls are so high, me'orot ditohu. They come from the orot hatohu. Bachru beheres v'hine maharsim. They choose to destroy v'hine maharsim, and with it they get destroyed. Ha'olam mitashtesh al yadam. The world gets rubbed out, or tashtesh teeters from them. V'heim imo, and they also get rubbed out and teeter with them. Now I just want to add something over here, and this is classic Rav Kook, that he says over here that they do this dafka to anger and spite, right? And not poshim lahachis v'lo l'te'avon. And they do it not out of their own desire. Now this is classic Rav Kook over here. Rav Kook writes in Maimer Hador and in other places as well. There was a big debate amongst the rabbis of that generation whether the people that sin, they're doing it to follow their taivas, because they're bali taiva. That's why they're doing it. You put a sin in front of a person, and because a person's a bali taiva, they're going to follow after their desires. And they really have no self-control over themselves. And that mahalach is still prevalent nowadays. Many people think that. But Rav Kook held l'shitaso, and again, he writes this straight out in Maimer Hador, he writes this straight out in other places, that the reason why people are sinning are not because of taiva. It's not because of desire. It's because they're disappointed and they're let down. It's because their souls are so high, and they're embittered and angry and frustrated about the things that are going on, right? So looking at the early Zionists, at least within the context in which he said it in, right, there were many Rabbanim that said they're doing this to follow their own desires. They want to throw off the yoke of Torah and follow their own desires. And Rav Kook didn't understand the matzav in that way. Rav Kook understood that they're doing this because they're disappointed and deeply frustrated. Has nothing to do with taiva. Has nothing to do with wanting to wear nice clothing or live a better life in that way. But it is rooted in the deep source that their souls are so high that they want the most out of life, right? Like the holy hippies want the most out of life. What are you saying?
Hurts people hurt.
Hurt people hurt people.
People hurt.
Right. In trauma we say hurt people hurt people. Only someone who's hurting goes ahead and hurts someone else, right? So these souls are hurting. They're hurting souls. So it's not l'taiva. Right, a kid is going off the derech, or a kid's in pain, and a kid's in this and that. Say he falls into whatever it is that they fall into, right? And they say, "Oh, it's taiva. It's taiva. It's just desire. Of course, he's in it because it's a desire." No. It's not desire. That's not why he's falling prey to all these things. It's because the neshama is so high that they want the most out of life. And you look around in the world, and it's not there. It's not found, right? So the answer is give them deeper, give them more Pnimiyus HaTorah, give them authentic relationships, give them the frequency in which that they resonate on, in the resonance of their soul. Give them that frequency, and then they come out of it, right? But as long as we're thinking that these are just this potion with te'avon, they're just doing it to follow their desire, we're in the wrong paradigm of thinking. We have to put on a new paradigm of hurt people, exactly like you're saying. That these are the highest souls that want to resonate on a higher frequency. Hari aval bachru beharis, right? Aval tamsit haomet sheyesh b'ritzono hi nekudah shel kodesh. And you should know the essence of strength which is in their will. Hi nekudah shel kedusha. It comes from their point of kedusha. I mean, it's remarkable, right? Like Rav Kook is looking at the early Zionists, and he's saying the reason why they're like this is because of the kedusha that's inside of them. Mic drop. Right? Who would say such a thing? Rav Kook is Migala the Pach Shemen. Rav Kook is showing that no matter what a Jew does, no matter what you've been through in your life, no matter how far you've fallen, no matter what, anything, right? You can come close to Hashem. Right? About Tamsis HaOmes Sheyesh B'Rtzona HaNekudah Shel Kedusha. Right? That this essence of their desire comes from this place of holiness, a point of kedusha. Shekeshehi nesveget el nishamot, when it gets absorbed into the soul, hamisha'arot b'mahalchan, and it goes according to its ways. He nosenet lahem es oz hachaim. This nekudah shel kedusha, combined with their idealism, right, gets absorbed into them, and it notenet lahem oz hachaim, and it gives them strength. It gives them extra power. It gives them, right, you're infusing that strength of kedusha into their idealism, and that makes them an unstoppable force. So when I think of this, I think of nanachs, I think of nanachs. Why? Because many of the nanachs, they're struggling, not all, of course, everyone's different. I'm just speaking generally over here, that they're struggling in different ways in their lives. And if you plug into Rebbe Nachman in a dysfunctional way, so it just enlivens the dysfunction, right? It just gives it extra strength, right? It's that's why you see both in Chabad and Breslov, you see the highest souls are attracted, and sometimes even among the most dysfunction around it as well, right? Because you take these powerful ore, you take this powerful light, this nekudah shel kedusha, and you infuse it into the dysfunction. You put it in kalim, in distortion that's not proper, that's not metukan, and it embolds the whole thing. I was one time many years ago, I was working in a yeshiva, and there was a nanach in part of the yeshiva, really good guy, really awesome guy. I know he doesn't listen to the shiur, I can't imagine, but so anyways, I wouldn't say his name. His name rhymes with, so I remember he was in the yeshiva, and he brought all his nanach friends in order to sleep in the dorms, And this was obviously very destructive because it wasn't a Nanach yeshiva. It wasn't even officially a Breslov yeshiva. Just this guy was Nanach, and he was, he wasn't. It wasn't a matter of taiva, as a Rav Kook saying. It was a matter of looking around the world and wanting more than he could handle. So he had like 7 or 8 Nanach sleep in the dorm, and it kept everyone up. So it was my job in order to tell him like, you can't do this, And so I went into the lion's den, and a guy literally almost punched me in the face. He pushed me up against the wall, and he was like ready to deck me, and I was like, yikes, get me out of here, like check please, and but this thing was coming from this azus, this nekudah kedusha, that he was ready to stand up for whatever it is. And he used to say, he had these one-liners, azus the kedusha, this and that, right? He had these one-liners he used to say, but it's like, it was totally destructive, right? But it's this, right? That you take the kedusha and you infuse it in distortion, right? And you get a very powerful thing, right? So that's why you see by certain leaders, even Jewish leaders, I've heard many, many stories of people getting caught up with leaders, spiritual leaders, rabbis that are not properly in line, and they feel taken advantage of. I'm not talking about ones that actually physically take advantage of. Those for sure should belong in prison, but we're talking about ones that even psychologically and emotionally they're able to yield a certain power, and they're able to put people in certain emotional headlocks, because you take the nekudah kedusha, you take this very powerful idea and you put it into kalim that are not proper kalim in order to hold it, right? So it creates this unbelievable strength and power, lira, in not a good way, that could be very, very, very damaging and harmful for people. Even if the rabbi is well known, there are certain people that I've heard many, many stories, I'm sure everyone knows in their own hearts, that it could be that they were taken advantage of in different ways, so something to be mindful of. So they bring down the world, they bring down themselves with it. And then, right, B'yoser hein. Now he's going to say how these souls are revealed specifically at the end of days. B'yoser hein midgalot be'ezeh achrit yamim. And the most amount of these souls get revealed at the end of days. That's nowadays. That's our generation, right? I think it was I think not to mention Lahavdil, but I think it was not Keith Moon, it was Mick Jagger, right? He used to say, talking about my generation, right? My generation, yeah, right? So he's talking about my generation, right? So Rav Kook's talking about my generation. That's what he's talking about here. That at the end of the days, these highest souls are the ones that get revealed. B'tkufa shelifnei harat olam. At the time period before harat olam, the birth of a new world order. Shekodem lavaya yitzira kedusha. Right before this new existence that's going to take place, yitzira chadasha v'nifla. There's going to be a new formation, a new creation, something new in the world. B'tchum she'al hitravet hagvulim, and the boundaries and all the borders, they're going to expand. B'terem leidat chok shemima'al lechukim. Right, that prior to a new world order, prior to Moshiach coming, prior to all the boundaries expanding and going above and beyond the natural order of things, right? All these neshamas are going to come down, right? Chanukah is nisa ma'al hateva, it's ma'al hachukim, right? When Mashiach comes, Mashiach ben Yosef, we're in now, but we wait for Mashiach ben David. Mamish nisa ma'al hateva. We're going to see miracles like there was Mamish in Mitzrayim, and even beyond that, right? Ultimately, as we were saying in previous years, right, there's a reversal of history. We're going to be Mamish like Adam Rishon in Gan Eden, maybe even higher than that, right? In the Olam Hatohu, right? As everything's coming down, all the neshamas are coming down. Rabbi Nachman says, Ad shetichla pruta min hakis. And Rabbi Nachman goes into a long drasha to explain when money dries up. He really says that's talking about neshamas from the Olam HaNeshamas. That's what he says. So however he darshans those words, but until all the money dries up from the wallet means until all the souls come down from the Olam HaNeshamas. and the Olam HaNeshamos has exhausted all its souls. And therefore, at the end of days, these holy souls from the Nishmas Olam Hatohu that were created at the moment of creation, prior to a new world order being born. It's not even prior, this is the process of having a new world order born. Having all the neshamos come down from the Olam Hatohu, from the Olam HaNeshamos, having all the souls come down into the world. And we're going to see there's going to be mamish. It's like Batman in the Dark Knight. You know, there's a new world order and the world is being reset, you know. And I love this. It's just an amazing thing. Okay? Be'ituse geula mitkaberet chutzpa. In the times of redemption, chutzpah comes out, brazenness. V'tsar mitcholo holech v'zoef. And the storm falls on itself and it's roaring. Piratzim acher piratzim yifratzu. Every boundary is going to be broken. Chutzpah mechutzpah tigdal. Right? And chutzpah is going to grow and grow and grow. Me'ein korach ruach b'chol otzar hatov shel or hamugbo hamitzumtzum. Mipnei she'enu mimale it's kol mishalot kulam, right? That this brazenness is going to happen to a person. All the goodness is going to come out. Welcome, Michael. Welcome, right? From all the light and good, right? Sorry, let me just read that again. Me'ein koras ruach b'chol otzar hatov shel or hamugbal, right? From where does this inner satisfaction come from? This light that's stored up in the storehouse of good, in light that is infinitude, that's mitzamtein. Mipnei she'enu memale, it's called mishalot kulam, right? Because their desire is so strong, it doesn't fill everything that they want. Mipnei she'enu misalik, it's called hamasechot ma'al kol pnei halot, because they are not able, because this light that they're searching for and the answers that they're getting from the world around them is not enough. It's not enough to remove the masks from their faces, right? Because we're not revealing to them, to these nishmas olam hatohu, all the secrets, all the razei Torah, all the secrets, all the panimius HaTorah. Ve'einenu masbia es hamavim. And we're not satisfying their desires for trueness. We're not satisfying their desires. So what's Rav Kook saying over here? Right, that in the times of Geula, right, the answers and the light that these souls are receiving is inadequate for them. So it doesn't want them to remove the masks of their faces, right? They're not able, right? And even in psychology, we call it masking, right? That we all have a persona that we put on. We all have, I'm with this person that way, I'm with another person this way, I'm another person this way. The ability to be vulnerable and just have an open heart and just remove the masks. These nishmas olam hatohu is something that we all struggle with. To just be honest, authentic, vulnerable with ourselves and with those around us. Right? And if Rav Kook is saying that if we tasted from the razei Torah, if we really tasted from the panimius Torah, if we tasted from a light, right? It's zelu umazeh. What do you need to counter the nishmas olam hatohu? What do you need it? You need Kabbalah. You need panimius Torah. You need Rav Kook. You need Rebbe Nachman, right? You need the Leshem. You need the Ramchal. You need the Vilna Gaon, right? You need all the tzaddikim in order to counter this thing. You want to satisfy it. The soul is quenching so much, right? And because of this, because a person, they feel disappointed, they feel let down by life, right? We need the razei Torah. We don't want to take off our masks. We don't want to show who we truly are. We don't want to step into our proper identity because doing so would be so painful. So again, we develop all sorts of coping mechanisms. We develop all sorts of ways to get around that, right? But we really, really need to remove our masks. We need to take off the mask. We need to remove the facade and step into our destiny and step into who we truly are, right? Right, all the images, all the facades, right? All the dysfunctions, right? It's all just defense mechanisms to protect ourselves, right? But if we taste it from the razei Torah, from the light of the or haganuz, right? From the light of the sheshish mebereshis, from the light of the menorah, right? The secrets of Torah, the razeh of Torah, the panimius of Torah, the shem and zayit zach of Torah, the creme de la creme, as they say. We want the creme de la creme, right? We want the deepest, we want the highest, right? We want the Chanukah Torah, right? That's the, like Rav Kook is saying over here, right? That a person wants so much, they want so much, but what do we need? We need to counter that. We need to have proper kalim in order to hold the light, right? There's the light, there's the wicks, and there's the oil, and there's the vessel that it's in. And you see that right? They call this spiritual bypassing, right? I just want spirituality, but I don't want to have to work on myself, right? I just want the light. I just want to feel good. I want the high of davening. I want the high of whatever it is, but I don't actually want to do the inner work. I don't want to do the therapy in order to be able to hold that light. I don't want to have proper kalim in order to hold that light. So what happens? The light burns and burns and burns, and then it just burns out. It fizzles out. It just destroys. As Rav Nassan says in many places, he said, too much oil extinguishes the fire, right? It's gorim kivoy aner, right? So we want to have not spiritual bypass and just head for spirituality. We want to have inner work, midos, right? Everything. That's when the word midah actually comes from measure. And Rav Kook is showing us that we really need the Panimius HaTorah. We'll read a little bit more. Ba'otos hein b'kol, right? They kick down everything. You go kicking and screaming. B'chelek hatov, even the good. B'grane osher hamovel es hamenucha v'shavas olamim, right? They even take down the good and the kernels of richness, hamovel es manucha v'shavas olamim, that brings us to tranquility of the world. Hamovel es adnei ad, that brings us to delicacies and gentleness forever. El romumus nitzrei nitzachim, that lifts us up for all of eternity. Ba'ot v'zohafot, they kick and they shame and they scream. Mishbarot umechalot, they destroy and they extinguish. Yardot liraot b'stei razim. And then what happens is, because they're not getting Panimius Torah, they're not getting Chanukah Torah, right? What happens? They go to foreign pastures. Maspikot b'yaldei necher, and they go to, they satisfy themselves with all sorts of other ideas. Yaldei necher, foreign children, strange pastures. Mechololot gaon kol tzvi ve'ein nachas. They desecrate, they make chulin, the light of tzvi, of splendor, ve'ein nachas, and there is no nachas. No nachas. Nachas from the kids, no nachas, right? As I got to hear Rabbi YY earlier in the week, he gave it from bringing in Shirat David, Rav Shlomo Katz's shul in Efrat, and he kept one of the things that he said, and I've heard him say this before, and I just love it, he says it. He says, your kids are not nachas machines, right? Your kids aren't there to give you nachas. They're not there to pump out nachas, they're people, right? But we use our kids because we don't have we're scared to take off our own masks. We're scared in order to actually be honest, authentic, and vulnerable. And we use our kids in order to try to give ourselves nachas because we don't have an inner world ourselves, right? They ain't nachas. So they go kicking and screaming, I don't want this, I don't want that, I don't want this, right? Right? The azay panim, right? This is right. Take everything down, right? The ein nachas, right? That people are using their kids in a way that's very destructive for their kids. It's very, very destructive, right? So parents can't use their kids, not even for nachas. If they get it, it's a nice thing, but you have to have your own inner world. You have to have your own inner life. You can't just be completely self-reliant on your children like that, right? So the kid feels used, and what happens? They say, enough, I don't want to be used anymore, right? And Rav Kook is saying over here, right, that even the goodness, right, like they're saying, they take down. And just to zoom out for a second, right, I was working with even last night in session, right? What?
Been busy this week.
Been busy. I mean, I'm in session most of every day, but I don't know why it's coming to me today, Like someone says to me last night, guy's in yeshiva for 5 years, he's in a certain yeshiva, and he says to me, and he's really working on himself, tzaddik, nishmas Olam Hatohu, the highest of the high, and he just wants so much, and he's just numbing out to everything. He says, I think I'm going to go out west for a little bit. So I'm like, out west? Where out west? Like, where do you have in mind? He's like, I don't know. He's like, there's certain places in Texas, maybe Alaska. He's like, I think I'm just going to go to Alaska for a little bit, you know? Now, I don't know if he's actually serious. I think he's maybe planning something. I think he's got something up his sleeve, you know? But I'm just going to go to Alaska, right? Like, how does that happen? Guy's in yeshiva for 5 years, right? And he's planning, and he's in a pretty loose yeshiva too, where they work with you. You know, it's not like in one of these rigid places, really, really good place he's in. And he's like, yeah, I think I'm going to go to Alaska. I'm going to spend some time in Alaska. Now, he's not doing it tomorrow, you know, but it's just, he wants so much out of life, right? He's in so much pain that he can't get it. There ain't nachas. There's no nachas, right? There's no inner tranquility. So go kicking and screaming. It's a different version. It's when you get old. It's right. Adult tantruming is not kicking and screaming. I mean, it can be for the less unrefined. They could be tantruming and bullying, right? But for the more refined, it's I'm going to go to Alaska, right? The holy soul, the highest soul, wants to go to Alaska, you know, and he's the highest, but he just wants to be in Alaska, right? It struck me. I'm like, I don't get it. You're in yeshiva for 5 years. You're going to just go to Alaska? You know, what's up with that? Like, where's that coming from? You know, it's because he wants so much, so he feels numb. He wants so much. He just feels numb. Nishmas Olam Hatohu. And as Rav Kook is teaching us over here, right, and Rav Kook is finding the nekudah kedusha in every single person, in the azei panim shebedur, in all the broken souls, in all the Rav Kook, as we mentioned last week, is showing that all this comes from the nekudah kedusha shebo. Rav Kook is teaching us, no matter what you've been through in life, no matter how far you've flung, no matter how disappointed you are, no matter how addicted you are, no matter how much you're suffering, no matter how much you feel estranged, no matter how many broken relationships you have, no matter what you're up to, never, ever, ever, ever give up. Ein shem yish ba'olam klal, because this is necessary. You must go through this in order for the geula to happen. These are necessary states, necessary processes. This is the pach shemen, the light of the menorah, the razei Torah, the or haganuz, coming straight down to us, broadcasted via Rav Kook, teaching us, giving us the einei tzadikim to see life with a wide-angle lens, to see life broader, to see beyond the facade of what's going on, beyond the pain, to see the neshama, the nekudah kedusha shebo on this Chanukah. Okay, everyone. That's it.